Welcome back to the All About Digital Marketing podcast. I'm today's host, Travis Ketchum, joined by Alex Schlinsky. How's it going, Alex?
Hey, Travis, thanks so much for having me, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Hopefully, you're staying cool down there in the Florida temperatures.
Nope, definitely not. It's extremely muggy, hot as heck out here.
Cool. Well, you run a pretty interesting business called Prospecting on Demand. You want to give us kind of a quick recap of what it is and what your sort of main shtick is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Prospecting on Demand is a mentorship community for agency owners, coaches, and consultants. We're a purposely boutique company because I think the other coaching programs out there are really built to scale their programs. Our business is the opposite. Our business is to scale your business because everyone on my team already has another business, whether it's an agency or something else. So, we get to pour in our insights from our current businesses into yours. We strictly work with 50 people and no more. So we're very deliberate about who we can support so we can have a white glove service versus a, hey, here's a Zoom room with 75 people and a members area with 1,000 hours of coaching material. Good luck. I don't love that model. So we changed up the space a bit. We're big on culture and community. We run 4 events a year, getting ready for a big one upcoming here, Travis, in Tampa, which I'm super excited about. So that's what we're all about. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of exciting testimonials and stuff, people you worked with, which is, the transformation is the most rewarding part about doing this whole business, right?
Absolutely, 100%. That's the best thing. Like literally while we're on this podcast, and I know that a lot of people are listening via their phone, but we use everything on Slack is how we deliver. And while we are on this podcast, I just got a notification from one of our clients that said, "Man, I love PIF, which is pay in fulls, and it's a $6,000 pay in full for a 3 month service." And I just love seeing like wins and celebratory experiences. Plus, like because of our community style, like we create like honestly like real relationships. We have inside jokes. It's just fun. It honestly is just fun. Now, not everything is fun. Obviously, it's still a job. Sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes it's challenging, and but it's very rewarding. Especially wins that aren't just financial. Financial wins sell, Travis. Like those are the ones that people care about when they're making a decision. But the ones that really inspire me, and trying to not be cliche here, but obviously I think it is cliche. The ones that really inspire me or get me motivated is someone says that we've helped them more deeply than just their business. Like we've affected them personally. We've helped them get out of their shell, become more comfortable in who they are, become comfortable in the uncomfortable, being more confident in what they do, being more satisfied with what they do, feeling like they're part of a community and not alone. Like those things are incredibly inspiring to me. And when I get those messages unsolicited, especially because soliciting them is valuable, but unsolicited, I mean, wow, it's like just incredible. I mean, it really changes your point of view of what you're doing. Like it makes you just feel a lot better. Someone messaged me the other day and they're like, I feel respected, appreciated, and motivated when I'm here. You guys are all my tribe. I'm so grateful to be a part of this. Like, wow, that's what a what a resounding statement. That is more than I closed a $10,000 deal, even though that's amazing too. So that's just an
Yeah.
interesting experience I've had.
For sure. And what's amazing about the entrepreneur's journey in general, and I think this is true especially for agency owners, in my long, long, long ago past, about four lifetimes ago now, it feels like, I did do some agency work. But being an entrepreneur can feel pretty lonely and isolating at times, right? I mean, um, my wife goes to some events with me sometimes and she can tell, when I'm lighting up because I'm around my people, and that's a big deal to be around your kind of people that understand you, that think like you, that the idea of going to a cubicle, clocking in and clocking out, has the only benefit really of you can not respond to emails after hours and get away with it sometimes, right? Whereas, entrepreneur, your hat's never fully off, but that trade-off is not, wouldn't happen in a million years for most of us. Although, sometimes you wake up questioning your sanity, right?
I think I question my sanity every day, mostly because of, and we were talking about this right before we started the podcast, but practicing what you preach is a really important thing. I think part of the reason why I'm really good at coaching certain things is because I deal with those things all the time. There's this idea of first person coaching that I think not enough people do. When you go to an event or you do networking with someone else and someone presents you with a problem that you are intimately familiar with, you have this incredible insight on how to solve that problem. And then when it comes to you having that problem yourself, solving it becomes much more challenging. So whether it's like mental health, which is such a common like through line for entrepreneurship, especially in the world that we live in today, which is like very heavily capitalist environment, hustle culture, nothing is good enough. You're never going to get success. Define success as not a reality. Competition is like very cutthroat. When you get to this point, and I'm coaching on the things that really matter, and defining your success, and carving out time for family, and identifying the things you really want to do. And then when I get overwhelmed, I know the answers, but then I got to do it myself, right? And this is what I always tell people that allows me to feel better at night, which is being a personal trainer is infinitely easier than doing the work, right? It is way easier to say, hey, Travis, I need you to run 2 miles today, eat no Oreos the whole week, and do 100 push ups every single night before bed. I finished the sentence. That was easy. That was easy job to do. It's hard? Not eating Oreos for sure. I mean, that's by far the hardest thing to do in that sentence. Hashtag Oreo lover over here. Best cookie in the world by far. Anyways,
Okay, hold on, hold on. Are you a double stuff fan?
I like all Oreos, but honestly,
Okay,
I'm
you don't discriminate.
I'm
Okay.
OG Oreos. I think golden Oreos are heresy or blasphemy. I can't believe people eat that garbage. It's chocolate. What are we doing here? Double stuff's okay. It's like, look, regular Oreo, that's the move. But in terms of like doing the 100 push-ups or running a bunch of miles, like those are hard to do. So I always explain to my clients that the reason why I'm able to coach this effectively is saying the solution is easier than doing the solution. It's like you can't be talking that action, you got to be about that action, but also having an umbrella of forgiveness and recognizing me as a human being, which is all I am. I'm not some robot or perfect person. I'm not always going to be perfect. I'm not always going to run the miles. I'm not always going to not eat the Oreos. I'm not going to always do the push-ups, even though I want to, even though I'm disciplined to. And I give myself as best I possibly can forgiveness on that, but still, no matter what I do, it's always a challenge, because when I see my clients implement the things that I'm asking them to do, and then I don't hold myself to that same standard, I feel bad about that. And I question my not sanity, but my integrity on that. And that's just me being very raw and very real. Even though I know, like I said, I'm a flawed human being, and I just have to continue to get better with discipline. And over time, I think I will continually get better, and that allows me to have what I call an umbrella of forgiveness.
For sure. I mean, I think it's a pretty common term that a lot of entrepreneurs get used to is, the cobbler's kids have no shoes, right? It's so easy to be the seller of shoes and not have shoes yourself, or
So much, yeah,
um
absolutely.
yeah, and it's not because of lack of ethical fiber or anything like that. It's just like you get so tired of doing the things, or telling the things, or tweaking the things for everyone else. Sometimes you forget to do it for yourself. For sure.
Absolutely. What I found in this format or mindset related to the like chef eating his own cooking kind of thing, one of the best ways that I've come to feel confident with myself on this is just recognizing that when someone does something you ask them to do and they do it in a great way, holding yourself accountable to that same standard is extremely valuable, but also being transparent with them that you want to be held to that same standard because of the result they got. It creates this incredible reciprocal environment. I'll give you a quick example. One of my clients that I got to meet in person in Chicago at our last event, he looked really healthy from the previous time I saw him, and I asked him about it, and he was like, "Oh, I'm working on this new program, this new like keto diet thing, way over my head." And he's like, "Alex, I think you would love it." And I've been saying for some time since my heart surgery, which if you didn't know that, people listening, I had heart surgery about 2 years ago, that I wanted to get more physically fit. But it's easy to do, just like anything else, to push it off. Just say you want to do it, but you don't do it. And so I push it off, push it off, push it off. And he said, I would love to hold you accountable to doing it, like you hold me accountable to all the things you've helped me with in my business. And when I heard that, I got concerned that now I'm going to be held accountable to something instead of myself. And that type of accountability is what allows people to do it. And that's what I recognize about the cobbler shoe or the chef's eating metaphor, which is like, the thing is not that they've been told to do it, is they're held accountable to doing it. So it's not just self-discipline, it's also not letting someone else down. And now starting this program, this workout regimen has helped me because I know I have accountability for it. And I found that to be really, really valuable.
Yeah, totally agree. So, I mean, I kind of want to get a little bit into the, origin story of prospecting on demand.
Sure.
It sounds like you help a lot of agency owners get those, wins, transformations, both, financially, as well as just sort of feeling supported, and plugging into an ecosystem that they just don't get elsewhere, which is awesome. But how'd you get there? Like what started prospecting on demand? What was the sort of kickoff story? And how has that sort of shaped your worldview as you now build this business?
Such a good question. And what I'll do is I'll try to give you a summation of essentially the last 12 years. But I'll just do a quick format prior to going to college because I think there's value to understanding the foundation. When I was younger, both of my parents were entrepreneurs. My mom ran an art studio in Aventura, Florida for a decade. She had over 1,000 students. She did it by herself. She was incredibly successful with it. And not just successful, she was doing something she was very, very passionate about. She is an extremely talented artist in a multimedia format, can really just create anything. It's pretty amazing to see. And then she taught thousands and thousands of kids in after school programs for a decade, building a very successful business. She was so good at it that it inspired my dad, who's a funeral director for 2 decades, to quit his job as funeral director, which is a very, very challenging job. Basically, being around death every single day, which is pretty much the worst time of the family's lives for 20 years straight. And me being the youngest of his 3 children, it's hard to go home every single day because the unfortunate reality of life, Travis, is not everyone passes away in a Disney fairy tale. A lot of them are unfortunate circumstances, whether it's car accidents or cancer or whatever it might be, and that takes a toll on you. So my dad wanted to make an impact on the world in a different way and become a financial advisor. And when my dad became a financial advisor, it took about 2 years, but suddenly things really changed in our family. I was young at the time. I was 13, I think, when my dad stopped being a funeral director and became a financial advisor. But I could tell some things had changed, being like a preteen, like from 13 to 15, where our cars had changed from like a Nissan Altima to like a Lexus, and our trips had changed from like we're going to drive 4 hours to Disney to we're flying to Vancouver for a week, and then we're taking a week-long trip on a cruise to Alaska. So, okay, things had changed, right? Obviously, pretty clearly. My mom was able to retire because of my dad's success. And then, unfortunately, when I was a freshman in high school, my dad had a massive stroke. His stroke was a brain aneurysm. So, literally, a piece of his brain exploded. Thankfully, he lived, but he didn't work for 2 years because of the recovery period, which we don't have to get into here, but it just wasn't good. And thankfully, the good news is, just as the side note of this, he's alive and well today. Thank God. He's 63 years old. He just had his birthday. He's 15 years past his surgery or past his stroke. He's met my son. It's amazing. I'm incredibly grateful for that. So I don't ever want to like say the story without that. But because of my dad's experience, what we quickly realized is the path that my mom and my dad took were both the I'm the business, there is no business path, right? So if my mom ever got sick, God forbid, there was no business without her. There was no party palette, which was what her business was. When my dad got sick, there was no business because he was the one that was the only person doing the financial advising. And when you have money involved, no matter how much you love Joshua Schlinsky, my dad, you're not going to leave your money unattended for 2 years. You got to go get another, financial advisor. And so my mom had to unretire and get a job and try to restart and sell paintings and all this kind of stuff. And there was some very adverse effects to that. We lost the home that I was born in, which I know is very challenging for my parents, and it was very hard for us to deal with that. And when I went to college a few years later, now that my dad was healthy, one of my goals was to ensure that anything that I would ever build or do, that it wasn't solely relied upon me. That was one of the main things that I was trying to build. But I still thought I was going to become an attorney or a psychologist, but it was like, oh, I'll be a part of like a bigger firm, not just my own. Like I wasn't actually very entrepreneurial at the time. But here's the crazy thing. Inherently, I was entrepreneurial. I just didn't have the paradigm to understand what that meant. When I went to school, I needed help with money. So my next door neighbor was an attorney. I went to do an internship with him before I went to college. And the first day I got into his car, Travis, he said, Alex, why do you want to become an attorney? And I gave him the whole like, I'm a high school senior going into college spiel of like, I want to make a difference in the world and blah, 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 right? That kind of
Hmm.
stuff. And he was like, okay, great. My mission over the next 30 days is to ensure 100% you do not go into pre-law and you don't become an attorney. He goes on to tell me as we're driving 35 minutes to the Miami courthouse of why this is the worst life ever, why he wishes he didn't do this, how he's trapped. It's terrible. It's awful. It was pretty crazy. I never felt anyone being that transparent to me in my life. I felt like my life had been really shielded from that point prior. Like everyone was always kind of doing the roses and daisies version of life, even when my dad was sick. Roses and daisies version, and this guy was like, this is the blunt reality. This sucks. And I can't get out of it because I have to provide for my family. And I've done this already for 15 years. And it's like, wow, this is crazy. So, He was very smart. Facebook had just released business pages on Facebook, and he realized that it would become very big. He was right. And he started asking me to post for him once a day on Facebook, and send a constant contact newsletter once a month, which I did. And he paid me $1,000 a month to do that. And he was getting a lot of reach from this because this is before it was a pay to play marketplace, before ads were on Facebook. And he was getting business from it. And so he said, hey, I'm going to ask you to do more and I'm going to pay you more. And when I went to college, I went to Orlando, University of Central Florida, and I asked him just logically, he went to UF. I said, do you know anyone in Gainesville or in Tallahassee or in Orlando that are attorneys that I could do the same thing for? And he sent me like 20 attorneys from the United States that he went to college with, that he's still close with. They do like a WhatsApp group all the time of UF, like, law school thing. And half of those became clients. And it was the easiest sell in the world, Travis. It was like 19-year-old Alex, like wearing a suit, pretending to be super, like, again, entrepreneurial. And they're like, oh, Lloyd sent you, boom, check, money. I don't care what you say. Do whatever you're doing for him. I'm ready.
Referrals are amazing that way, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's 100, almost 100% close.
Especially at that like age range where you're expecting all of this stuff to be so like challenging. It was just easy. And so for 4 years, I worked with about 10 attorneys, 15 attorneys on average, making about 10K a month. Yes, I was a stupid college student. Yes, you can imagine what I was buying with that money. But most of it was for school, other things also transparently, nothing too bad, but the standard college stuff. Buying stuff for my girlfriend because I thought I was a high roller, buying drinks for my friends because I thought I was a high roller. Never in my mind did I think I had a marketing agency. I was just like, this is my side hustle and I'm really smart that I'm making this happen and I'm going to school to become a psychologist. That was my brain. School ended 4 years later, and I realized that I was completely burnt out on the idea of going back to school because to become, a clinical psychologist, you got to get your master's, you got to go back. I'm like, no, I do not have it. I can't make it happen, Travis. So inherently, I started thinking, how else can I make money? And I'm already making money doing this. Can I get more attorneys? And so research started happening. I know this sounds absolutely outrageous that I did zero research on this business model I already had for 4 years, but I just really didn't have the paradigm at all that this was a business. It was just my side hustle. So you just have to understand my mindset was so focused on school that I couldn't even think of that I could make more money doing this. Now start searching. As soon as you search, retargeting ads happen. And thus Ty Lopez came into my life. Dan Henry came into my life. Dave Rogenmoser came into my life. Who else was at that time? I think those were the main three at the time. And it blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, I've already been doing this for 4 years. Like, wow, this is crazy. So I bought a couple courses, and I had my wife quit her job as a waiter. And I'm like, if you can help me build the operation side, I can sell. Like, I'm definitely capable. And I did door knocking because I really like doing that. And I love just showing up and just being myself and being like super loud and uproarious. And
You might be the first person I've ever met that actually enjoys knocking on doors to make
love
sales.
it. Love it. One of the big things I've learned in my life is my willingness to hear no more than someone is willing to say it. Persistence and perseverance is a really, really important key, and something that I can attribute a lot of my success to. I'm a dog when it comes to that. I'm just a wolf. That's who I am. It's how I was bred, how I'm born, how I'm raised, what my parents are. It's just who I am, like to the core, really, sincerely. And doing this process, I'd get a lot of no's, which I was dejected at the time, but the wins so far outweighed the no's. And most of the wins were like essentially the audacity of this kid. That's what it was. The audacity. I am $150, $500 an hour attorney, and you're coming into my office. Fucking audacity, man. The audacity. I'll never forget. Someone said, I like your panache. You just don't forget when someone says that because panache is just not a word that people use. And I'll just never, ever forget that he said that. I sold a lot. I probably got to like $50,000 in recurring revenue less than a year after I graduated college. I was like, dude, I am brilliant. I just thought I was the smartest guy in the world, honestly. And so
That's
I got
pretty typical for that, 19, 20,
for
early
sure.
20s
I
sort
was hot
of.
shit. That's the reality. I just thought I was
Yeah.
hot shit. Got married. All the money that we had saved, we went on a Euro trip for a month. We spent a lot of money, about $30,000. Went to, I think it was 9 cities, 5 different countries for an entire month. It was incredible. I did zero work. I handed the business off to one of my high school friends and told him I'll pay you $10K just to handle this. And he was like, oh my God, it's incredible. Really? Like, you're amazing. I'm like, I'm a good friend. I know, it's great. Just handle the business. Nothing bad's going to happen. We're good. Left with like I think it was roughly like 30 something thousand or so. I can't remember exactly, something around there. Came back to about like 2,500. Lost every client basically. I didn't do any appropriate CSM management telling them I'd be gone. I was just being stupid. Like, honestly, I was just very immature, didn't really understand what it took to run a business. When I came back, I was the most dejected I ever felt because really, if you remember, the start of this story was my dad's experience. I recognized I didn't learn anything. I didn't learn shit, honestly. And it was very upsetting to me that I would let my pride get in the way of learning something that my dad had to unfortunately go through a potentially death's door to make this happen. And I didn't learn anything. And I was very upset about that. So from there, I really reinvested my time into building a real business. And that's where I invested in Dave Rogenmoser's program, which I can clearly say was the most impactful investment I ever made. He really realigned me appropriately. Austin Netzley, got to give him huge props too. About 6 months after that, his Scale 2X program, it honestly made a complete difference for me, changed everything about what I do. And I built a real company. And then I handed that company off. And then I started building POD about a year later. So from 2015, 2017, I was building the agency. And it was very successful, a six-figure company, easy, was very easy to run, very easy to scale. And then I started POD in order to really help people do the same thing, learning my lessons. And now here I am 6 years later, into POD, and it's just incredible what we've done and what we've accomplished. And the story over the last 12 years is insane, and so many elements inside of that story that I didn't share because it would take forever to do so. But like in that time frame, I worked with the Miami Dolphins, I worked with the UFC, I had open heart surgery, I had my first child, I bought my first home. It's just it's crazy. We've employed over 25 people. We've made more than $15 million in 10 years. It's incredible what we've accomplished and what we've done. It's hard to fathom how naive I was, but I think the value that I bring to people is recommending and realizing like we're playing a longer term game. Like I was really, really stupid for like 6 years and I still made good money. So if you're not as stupid as me, you could probably make a lot more. And I think that's hopefully what you're taking away from this podcast. Like I was very stupid. I One of my pitches in my trainings when I do live events, Travis, is I'm like, I ran a six-figure marketing agency for 4 years and I didn't even know. And people are like, what are you talking about? And this is the story of that.
Yeah, I think, it's pretty common for us to look back on our old selves. Like, anytime I look at, old work I've done in the past, right? Whether old sales copy or, decisions I made or when to sell or when not to sell or how I price things or how I even named product. I was just like, what are you thinking? You're so dumb, and I'm sure that future Travis is going to say the same thing about current Travis, right? So you always look back and you always feel underprepared at the time that you made the decision when you look back. But in your current state, you feel like you have a grip on things. Maybe you even feel some bravado when you're younger, right, and things like that. So it's a
Maybe
whole
bravado.
process.
I think we can definitely take the maybe away. I was definitely feeling myself 100%, very cocky, very arrogant. I'm not ashamed of that though, honestly, Travis, when I look back. It wasn't like I was trying to like stunt on other people. I was truly just proud of myself. Personally, I was proud of myself, which I don't think is a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with being proud of yourself. I think if you let your pride uh, touch on other people and you think you're better than someone because you're making more money, I think that was the thing that I'm ashamed of back in the day. That I thought making more money makes you a better person. And one of the things that I've identified is no matter how much money you make, it does not make you a better person. No matter how much money someone else has, it doesn't make you better. It doesn't make them better than you. You're the thing that my dad used to always share with me, and that I really want to impart upon my son. And I believe this so much. Like I have a very unique last name. Like pretty much no one else in the world has Schlinsky as the last name. My dad would say all the time that the Schlinsky name is not Alex's name. The Schlinsky name is our family name, and you must represent that family name with integrity, with generosity and care and love. And my dad would say that all the time. And that's something that I really so strongly believe in. I think it's easier to say when you're 30 or 31 years old than when you're 18 or 19 because you just want your dad to shut the fuck up and be like, yeah, whatever, yeah, old man, like let me do my thing. But that's the only thing I would say I was ashamed of during that time, like thinking truly that, oh, I'm better than these people because I make more money, which is totally ridiculous and totally not true at all. So but again, like I think it's okay to feel those things as long as you get better over time, and that's what I feel very strongly I've done.
Yeah. So what specifically helped you make that transformation? Like, part of it is just general maturity of of
Yeah.
growing older, right? Like the more I feel like the more that I learn, the more I realize I don't know, right?
Mm,
Like it becomes this like
that's great.
exponential thing.
Yeah.
Like a true expert thinks they know nothing, and an amateur thinks they know everything.
I love
In
that.
some
Yeah,
regards,
that's really good. What was the big transition for me?
it probably wasn't one thing, but like, can you touch on like maybe two or three events throughout your life that did help sort of nudge that shift maybe faster than just age alone?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, the biggest one by far, was the surgery, of course. When I was 29, I was told that I would have to have open heart surgery. A quick backstory on this for clarity. So when I was 18 years old, on a standard, checkup with the doctor, he told me I had a heart murmur. I went to the cardiologist. They said I was born with a congenital heart defect, that I'm guaranteed to have surgery in my life. 99% chance. It's very unlikely to not have surgery when you have a bicuspid aortic valve, which is what I was born with. And he basically said, though, you don't have to worry about it. You'll be like 60 or like 70 years old when you have it. You'll be good. And by that time, medicine will be crazy, blah, blah, blah. You know the deal, right? So 10 years later, I had somehow accelerated the clock by 30 years. They're like, at 29, now you have to do the surgery. And my recognition of that was that how hard I was hustling for 10 years. I was just revving the engine, not really understanding like your body's a temple type thing, right? Like if you rev an engine of a car, you ruin the car, you ruin the engine. And that's what happened. My heart was the engine, and I was revving the engine full throttle for 10 years straight because I told you already, I'm a dog, I'm a wolf. This is what I do. What is relaxation? I don't know what that means. What is taking time off? I don't know what that means. I bought into David Goggins yelling while he's running. I bought into Gary Vaynerchuk, $1 billion agency guy, having a side hustle for going to sell vintage toys at garage sales because that's the right thing to do. So while I was making money in my marketing agency, I had to build POD. While I was making money in my marketing agency, I had to go become a journalist for the Miami Dolphins because that's what you're supposed to do, right? That is how it's supposed to be. But the reality was, like a very strong reality check was that is not what it's supposed to be. What I really defined was success is defined as a subjective way. What's one man's boring is one man's life's greatest work, and that's just how it is, right? Like some people are amazed by mathematician TED talks. To me, I'm like, I'm gonna die if I have to watch a 2-minute TED talk on math. Some people love talking about sales psychology, and other people want to die listening to it, and that's just the human experience. And so to me, what I recognize, like in terms of my maturity, was that I was letting my definition of success be defined by people that I don't give a crap about. No offense to Gary Vaynerchuk or Grant Cardone or David Goggins, but I don't care what they think because they don't care about me. That doesn't mean they're bad people or I'm a bad person. It really made me reflect on what I actually care about the most, which is when the doctor tells you you have to have open heart surgery and you're faced with mortality potentially at 29 years old, which is not something I expected or wanted, you quickly shift every single priority that you have. My wife ended up finding out that she would be pregnant when I was having the surgery, which is crazy because I wanted to be a dad more than anything, particularly after my dad living through this experience. And I know a lot of people's stories are not like that. Their dad had a stroke and died. Mine did not. He lived. My mom lived. I have both of them available to me. I can call them right after this podcast, which I will. I'm grateful for that, right? I think just life slapping me in the face at 29 was by far the biggest. Prior to those experiences, I would just say being humbled by recognizing like some people that I worked with making significantly less money were such greater givers than I were. Like givers to their religious community. Like that's was the one of the biggest things I saw. Like like very religious people are incredible givers. Like they give so much to their church or synagogue or temple or whatever it might be, and they're struggling financially. And I used to think like, how is that so twisted? And it's not. It's just the priorities of money is not the priority, and that really shifted me a lot.
Probably also the way that they sort of see themselves and their life purpose in general, that's a life of service, right, for
100%,
those individuals. And
100%.
you know, so many of us are thinking about, yeah, what can we gain and versus what can we give?
That what can we give versus what can we gain was something I really needed to learn. I didn't want to become like the bro culture marketer, but inherently I just did. I just became that person, and it's so weird how that happens without reflection or intention because of the people you surround yourself with. And then you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, who the is this guy? Who is staring back at me? Because it's just not who I was at all, but it's who I became. It's very strange how that ended up happening. But I would say now, sitting here, nearly 2 years post surgery, I have an 18-month-old son. I'm proud of what I've accomplished and what I have in my business, and more importantly, what I have in my life. Um, I would say, I'm proud of it. I would say the biggest change for truth is hiring a coach that has nothing to do with money. So my coach that I work with is a leadership coach. It has nothing to do with money. He does not help me make money. He helps me strictly on mental health and how to be a better leader, not a better leader in business, a better husband, a better dad, a better person, the best Alex I can be. I'll give you a quick example that I think is so valuable. About a month and a half ago, we lost a couple legacy clients, people that have worked with us for a long time. And it was very emotional for me because I love these people and we work in them for so long. And it was just tough, And I called, we have what we call flare call. Like once every 3 months, if I need a call, like he'll make it happen. And so I message him like flare and he's like, I got you, calls me and we're chatting. And he's like, how's Shira doing? That's my wife's name. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, how's Shira doing? And I'm like, I don't want to talk about my wife. He's like, but that's what matters, right? That's the thing that matters, right? And I could tell what he was doing, and I was like, I want to be resistant of it. I want to talk about my feelings about the clients leaving. He's like, how's Ellie? That's my son's name. How are you doing spending time with him? Do you have anything planned this weekend? And I could tell what he was doing was trying to refocus me on what really matters, because losing clients happens. You don't lose your wife. You don't lose your child. Those are the things that really matter to you, Alex. That's what you're here to help get my help with. And him realigning me on that, crazy.
Some people do lose those things. It's important to remember and be grateful, right? I mean,
Because if they don't appropriately prioritize them, and that's
100%
what he
agree.
was trying to explain to me, right? He's like, these are the things that you've prioritized. When I started working with him, we did this thing called the Wheel of Life. I think some people have heard of it. It's like you represent the 8 most important categories of your life, and where you feel you are with them right now and where you want to be. And of course, part of those is business, relationships, religion, family, children, like those types of things. And most people really want to be better parents and better partners, and that's something I really wanted. But my brain focuses so much on business because that's who I am. I'm a wolf. That's who I am, like I said. But I think learning those things and having a coaching that's strictly for that is very valuable. So that's one of the things I also we do in POD. My coach is now part of coaching in POD for that reason. We do a mindset call every Friday. It's not for business. It's strictly for mental health. It's the only call we don't record in the program for the purpose of the very sensitive nature of the topic.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I've got kind of two more questions for you here, and then I think we can
Sure.
probably move towards closing it up. The first question is, if you could go back and have a chat with 19-year-old Alex, and you're the one driving the car,
Oh
not the neighbor, what would you tell him?
man, such a good question.
But you only got the short drive. You can't tell him like all the pitfalls about life. You just
Yeah.
maybe got maybe a trip to Starbucks. You got 10 to 15 minutes. What's the highlights that you're going to try to tell him in that car ride?
Simplicity is the answer. So I have a 3-step process that I go through now for everything in my life: define, design, do. What I identified is, if you don't define what makes you happy or satisfied or comfortable in life, then you'll never achieve it. You'll never be able to do it. And then you'll have so many people that are always feeling that they're arm's reach of success, or they're never satisfied, because there's always a greater mountain to climb. There's always a bigger fish to catch. No matter what mountain you've ascended, there is always a bigger one, always. And I don't think I understood that when I was 19. And so I let other people define for me. I let other people design for me, and I did. When you do what others defined and what other design, you don't get fulfillment in what you wanted. And I think that's part of the reason why I had my surgery have to happen sooner, because I was pushing that engine so much. So to me, that would be the biggest thing I would say, like really clearly define it. And that would be the lesson I would give anyone. And just in case you're fearful of this, because there's 2 reasons why people don't define or design and do, instead of most people just end up doing, right? And they just kind of endlessly, uh, randomly just kind of do these things. What we've identified is there's 2 main fears that people have related to this. And the first is the fear that they don't actually know what they want. They don't actually know what will make them happy. And so they never define what will make them happy. But here's the thing, like, you can define it, achieve it, and realize it's still not enough. And then you optimize for it. And that's okay. That's okay. Right. And then the second thing that we've identified is, what if I'll never achieve it? What if my definition of happiness, success, or fulfillment is something that's so lofty that I'll never be able to do it? And the idea is, if you shoot for the stars and miss, it's not a failure, right? The most important thing is trying, giving your best. And so those things are the things that I would teach myself back in the day. I wish I could do that, honestly.
Yeah, couldn't we all? The ultimate life hack, just learning from future future
Oh,
versions
one
of
other thing I
ourselves.
would do is I would tell him the winner of every Super Bowl winner in the last 10 years so I could bet on each of those games, and make my life way better with way more money.
You would Marty McFly yourself.
So 100%, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And then so the second that's a great answer by the way. The second question is you wake up tomorrow, you have $1,000, a laptop, no other resources, and 30 days to restart everything. What do you do?
Okay, cool. So let's use my previous example. What am I working towards? What am I trying to accomplish? What do I need to do so I know the finish line, right? What the problem with this that I always do with people that I work with is, do you know who Usain Bolt is, right? Pretty much every single person on this podcast will say yes. Do you know who Mo Farah is? Some people might know him. Most people won't know him. Mo Farah is the Usain Bolt of long distance running, right? So Mo Farah does marathons and he's legend. I think he still has the um, the world record, like whatever, 20 years later or something. It's pretty crazy. So, simple question, Travis: who wins in a race, Usain Bolt or Mo Farah?
Depends on the distance.
And that is the answer to your question. So, I need to know the distance. I need to know the finish line. So, you're saying I have an $1,000 budget, I've got 30 days, and I've got a laptop. To do what?
To restart your business. You don't have your existing business, you don't have your existing client list. All you have is your knowledge, a laptop, and $1,000, and you want to get back up on your feet.
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing I would do is I would define exactly what I want. For me, the thing I would need is first to identify what are my baseline expenses that I have to take care of. If I say that my baseline expenses are $3,500, that's what I need to work towards immediately, first and foremost. If I have an $1,000 budget for that, the likelihood of me being able to invest $1,000 to get money back from that is probably not very, very strong. I'd probably actually hold the $1,000 just as a last ditch effort, just in case I needed that for whatever opportunities come my way. First thing I would do for sure is get clarity on what is the easiest service to provide, the easiest service to provide that has the highest margin for the most valuable person I can speak with. Usually, for me, what I would do back in the day is my religious network. So, my dad was the president of our temple. It's a 500-person family shul. The shul is temple. It just allowed us to create so much opportunity by simply going to the people and saying, "Hey, I'm running this business. Would you be open to becoming a beta client of mine to test it out?" And the answer in reality is they do want to help you. So I would definitely start there. If you don't have religious affiliation or that type of network, then it's your local network, meaning who do you know, who is in your local area, where can you go door knocking. Door knocking is just not a thing most people do anymore because they don't have the audacity to do so. If you're more willing to hear no than they are willing to say it, you will get the answers. So those would be the steps that I would take very clearly. I would sell these products, and as soon as I can get to the margin of $3,500, then I would start investing in advertising for that product so I can scale again. Every outbound methodology for prospecting or outreach for client acquisition is a means to an end. The means to an end is to run ads. Ads is always going to be the method. That's what's needed. Wherever you run them is different. Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or YouTube, those are completely all different platforms, but those would be the methods I would do. Define, design, do.
So use your panache to go door to door to
That
get
is
that initial
correct.
funds.
That is correct. My panache.
You know what I love about that one little piece of that answer that you had is you said you would find them would be the most valuable to the right person, and the story I like to bring up to remind people of that is, it's this. I'm pretty sure it's a fake story, but like let's say it's a dam, and one of
Allegory. Allegory.
yeah, yeah, and one of the hydropower plants stops working and try as they might, they can't get it to run again, and the power plant is losing all this money because there's water flowing through here, but the hydropower plant isn't running. They need to get it going, so they're willing to pay a lot to make this thing run because there's outsized value for them to get, right? So they have this guy come and look at it and say, can you fix it? He goes, yeah, I can fix it. It'll be $10,000. And so the company has to decide, well, is it worth $10,000? We have this huge opportunity. We need to make it work. 10,000. So, yep. All right. 10,000. They sign the contract. The guy pulls out his hammer, walks around to one specific spot, gives it one good whack, and immediately the power plant starts running. They say, whoa, 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 whoa. All you did was swing your hammer once. That's not worth $10,000. He goes, all right, let me rewrite the description. Swinging the hammer, $1. Knowing where to swing, $9,999. And it kind of puts the point of it doesn't necessarily matter what your workload is, it's how valuable that workload can be for somebody
1,000%.
and finding the right person.
So a lot of people have like kind of the audacity to be like, your time is not worth $1,000 an hour. It's like you're not paying for the time for an hour. You're paying for the 12 years of expertise that I have on this to accelerate your growth. Like if I'm going to save you 50 hours, of course it's worth it, no question. And then the other idea related to the hammer thing, which that's a funny story in general. It's like the idea of feeling confident in your pricing comes down to not what something is worth, it's what something is worth to the prospect based on the value you're providing to them. That is ultimately the key, right? So like I think, yeah, it's totally worth it. The thing that's funnier to me though, as we close out here, is like that's the classic. Did you hit it? Like the TV isn't working. Did you hit it? I love that. That's the best.
Yeah, and I agree because a lot of times you see, especially in the business world, right? It's like, oh, this speaker, author, yada yada yada, isn't worth that price, and maybe they're not. But the biggest thing is, are they worth it to you, right? Because I've seen masterminds where people, will gladly pay $1 million to go, meet a couple times a year, but they can make 10, 50, $100 million out of the education or the connections that come out of that. And that is what's being brokered, right? If you take someone who's underprepared for that opportunity, even if you paid their fee, right, they would never get the value out of it because they don't have the situation or the resources or the needs to make that leverage worthwhile. And so when you're as a business owner, I always think about like, how can we be as valuable as possible? Like, I run an email marketing platform, right? And so for us, one of our hallmarks is amazing deliverability. Well, if you have 5 subscribers or no email list at all, you probably aren't even problem aware that deliverability is a thing, right? But if you have 10,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, millions of subscribers, if I can get you a 4% bump, which is, I'd be embarrassed if that's all I could do, that could be worth 6, 7 figures, right? Depending on your audience size. So finding the people who it's worthwhile and providing your service there, it's the same job, really, but one is worth a lot more to a certain kind of individual, and that's an amazing positioning. Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know we're kind of up against it here, but really appreciate you taking the time, sharing your story. If people wanted to get in touch with you and learn more about your background or your business and how they might be able to learn more about what you do and how you can help them as in their agency, because we do have a lot of agency owners that listen to this, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, prospectingondemand.com, probably the easiest thing to remember because spelling my last name can be challenging. If you want to follow me, Facebook is where I post my personal stuff, and then it's aggregated by my team to everywhere else. But I post on every platform: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, etc. But facebook.com/Schlinsky, SCHLINSKY. If you message me there, I'll happily help you. You can also easily find me, like I said, prospectingondemand.com.
Great. Well, it's been a real pleasure, and thanks for your time.
Thanks so much.